Hello, everyone. Back again. We are looking at win with the closed Sicilian, and we are on game 20, I believe, and we are discussing the line that begins at move 6, F4 and E6. This game is between former world champion Boris Spassky and a player named Beikert. This is in the French Cup final in 1991. Game started out E4, C5, closed Sicilian. Again, all of these videos are on the playlist and all the different variations. So F4, E6, knight F3, knight G, E7, double castles. And now bishop D2. Before we saw the move bishop E3 with the idea of pushing E4. And we saw different responses from black, knight D4, B6, and so on. Here Spassky plays this move, bishop D2, which is a little more modest. And the idea behind this is usually to restrain or slow down at least black's advance on the queen side by basically playing on the queen side also. So it's a little prophylactic move, knowing that black's counterplay is going to come mostly from the queen side. So white desires to kind of put a clamp down on that and then pursue his ambitions on the other side of the board. Notice how this bishop protects this knight here in case he needs to play a move like b3 himself or something like that. So b6, and now we see the move queen e1 from Spassky. All right, and now this move is usually indicative of transferring the queen to the king side. All right, but it has other purposes. Also can put some pressure on e6 after these pawns are exchanged. All right, and just for example, the game might continue normally instead of that move. Uh, say rook b1, bishop d7, and the game can continue like this. For instance, d4, it takes a5, queen f2, and now e5. And the position is pretty much equal. You got a long game ahead. Black really has nothing to worry about here. And he has a clear plan and strategy attacking down the C file. That's how typical play can go. Here, Spassky played the move queen e1, bishop b7, and now g4. So he went with this plan that we mentioned earlier of transferring the queen to the king side. And of course, we've seen this plan before. This idea of f5 coming into the position, and also the trade of the dark square bishops at some point. And again, there's more than one way to skin a cat. It's not always the traditional bishop e3, queen d2, bishop h6 setup to trade off the bishop. Sometimes this bishop on d2 gets traded for the bishop on g7 via queen f2, and then the bishop could be on e3, and sometimes the bishop gets traded on the a1 to h8 diagonal. Other times it gets traded with the queen being on h4, and then after f5 the bishop will then come and be traded. So that strategy is very important from white's perspective and is always up in the air. So after g4, anticipating white's plan with f5, black strikes out with f5. Okay, and this move is double-edged because, again, remember earlier I spoke about the queen also being here to try to exploit this pawn on e6. So notice the double purpose. The queen can go to the king side, but also in exchange can exploit the square e6. So f5 again slows down slows down white's plans of a kingside assault, but is very committal as far as pawn weakness is concerned. So now e takes f5, e takes f5, and now you get this move knight g5, and look at the e6 square. Now all of a sudden the pieces look excellently placed. All right, white queen is just already there, right? No need to prepare anything. So queen d7, queen e6. So forget about the kingside attack. I'm going right into the end game. And just beautiful how Spassky's pieces just come into action. Knight d8, of course, desperately wanting to get rid of this knight here. Again, remember we say there's more than one way to skin a cat. Again, we see the disappearance of this dark square bishop. Okay. And we see all of these piece exchanges. But in the end, it's going to work out for white here. So bishop c3. And now knight d5 is played here. And you might say, well, why just give up the rook? If he plays rook f7, then knight d6. Whoops. Knight d6 hitting the rook. Rook f8. This is kind of stiff for black to deal with going forward. Okay. Very, very bad position. So at least with knight d5, black is, has this threat of a fork here. So he takes, bishop takes d7, knight e3 check, king g1, knight takes f1, and now bishop c3. And of course black is hoping that with all these exchanges he can get closer to a draw here. Knight e3, attack with the double attack. And rook e1. And black resigns. You might be like, wait a minute. The problem is after knight takes g4, rook e8 check, king f7, knight d6 is mate. And again, you see the powerful penalty that black has to pay when weakening the king side. I always look at this setup with the pawn on f5 as a Dutch defense. And once that bishop, Leningrad Dutch, and once that bishop is going off of g7, there's always a lot of opportunity to exploit the weakness on the king side of black. Because just by nature of moving the f-pawn, the a2 to g8 diagonal automatically becomes weak. That's the light square diagonals. So then once you eliminate the other, once you eliminate the bishop off of g7, then the a1 h8 diagonal becomes weak also. There's always a lot of attacking opportunities here. So this was just a case of some tactical oversight. It looked like black was getting out of his troubles, but then next thing you know, he's checkmated by Boris Spassky here. So again, there's always more than one way to deal with skinning the cat, and that's the lesson from this game, is that again the dark square bishop needed to be eliminated, but it was eliminated in a different way than actually trading the bishop. So white actually maintained his dark square bishop, which is definitely dangerous, while eliminating the black bishop on g7. Another major factor is the weakness on e6, which is very important. Okay, so black always has to be mindful when playing this move f5. Right, that is very committal as far as the pawn structure is concerned. And we saw in this game Spassky exploit that to the fullest. So that is it for this game. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like, subscribe, check the links below. I have the DVDs and books associated with the Sicilian and this particular opening, the closed Sicilian. And also, comments are welcome, donations are welcome. And we have one more game in this line, 6F4, and we'll be looking at that on the next video.